Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Let me introduce myself correctly because my job is written as old as 8 years ago. I'm doing now producer with the daily editorial program Mawra al-Khabar, Beyond the News. And I just spent 2 years with the website of Al Jazeera since its launching until end of 2002, from January 1 to 2002. After that, I moved to the Al Jazeera and practiced TV business as I was trained by my colleagues of Fush Television. In my brief paper, I just built with Al Jazeera as a case study, as an Arab influential network that's covering Japan. And I could claim that Al Jazeera is covering as many as we can according to editorial policy and also according to some limits. Could be financial, or because when I suggested myself the opening an office in Al Jazeera in Tokyo, that time manager and management told me it's so expensive. As you know, Tokyo is terribly expensive. Then I knew this fact, of course, so I argued saying, yeah, I know, so why don't we have a barter deal with some of the networks? We have a space there and they have a space in Al Jazeera, and by so doing, we would limit the budget. But after this kind of discussion, the bureau was opened here in Tokyo for a few months, then closed for, I think, also financial and administrative reasons. My colleague, Mr. Fadi Salama, who is a reporter of Al Jazeera based in Tokyo, to me, as an elder colleague of him, I appreciate what he's producing from Japan, especially as all of you know, politics is terribly, I mean, people of the Arab area or audience of Al Jazeera are fed up with politics. So my colleague is doing many features of interest to youth, women, and grassroots. But the problem with Fadi is, according to myself, he wants to cover as many as he can. Finally, the budget doesn't help. I'm saying this as, let's say, off record, because I'm not representing Al Jazeera officially. I'm talking on behalf of myself as a journalist who works with Al Jazeera, but they're enough to criticize sometimes the Al Jazeera's administrative policies. And they are tolerant enough to hear me and to sometimes accept and sometimes reject my opinions. I want to forget about Al Jazeera now, but I would like also to deal with some other items, definitely the Arab media in general. As an intellectual or as an expert in a way, spent 30 years with this profession, I would say that the Arab media, especially owned by states, are not professional enough to serve the public opinion. To the extent that last year I suggested having an organization by the name Arab Organization for Protecting Public Opinion. We have now organizations protecting consumers. If we are protecting consumers, we should betterly also protect our opinion and our public opinion from misusing the media. So Arab media, to me at least, do not cover Japan enough. I myself feel like I mean Arab and Muslim, we should learn from Japan. And Japan one day came to Egypt to learn from the Egyptians under Muhammad Ali's. And for several reasons, the Arabs and the Egyptians are now underdeveloped more than before. So it is our time to learn from Japan. The media is not doing its duty, according to me, and not learning, not transferring, not reflecting many Japanese values, many Japanese news, many Japanese features, because of many reasons. I don't want to talk much about the political, and most of our media either serving authorities or businessmen. We have, let's talk about my country, many independent or so-called independent media. But to me also these independent media just trying to defend the businessmen. They don't care much about, for instance, sending somebody to work in Tokyo. I knew just a few minutes ago that we have some colleague from one of the Egyptian new media, it's Yom Saba, and this is a good news for me, since I am of the opinion that we should concentrate more about Japan. We have been covering the West and visiting the West and sending our students to the West, but here there is another civilization. And we have common values, as Dr. Muhammad this morning, and we should, as Arab media, work here more than, to me, more than Washington or London. I hope this day will come, inshallah. But to deal with this problem, or to overcome this problem, I appreciate enough what the youth yesterday said or suggested. Thanks to the internet and the bloggers and the new media, we could sometimes forget about media as traditional media owned either by authorities or by private sector. Everybody now in the world can be in himself a media, having a blog or sending a news by SMS or having a YouTube. So what I'm suggesting to this forum this year is to try our best, our own ways, having our own media. My proposal is everybody attended this year should be next time coming and having his own either blog in which he talked about Japanese traditions, Japanese news, Japanese talks and that kind of thing. This is the only way, because we can keep blaming Al Jazeera and Al Arabiya and Al Ahram, but they will never, they have their own agendas, they have their own problems, they have their even the financial crisis is affecting everybody, including, except Al Jazeera, by the way. Al Jazeera declared the other day before I come, opening 10 more bureaus all over the world, which is very good news. I hope Tokyo will be one of them. They promote the reporter to a bureau.